Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the stars. The metal floor felt cold under his boots. His hands gripped the rail as he watched space stretch out in all directions. 3 years had passed since the aliens first came to human space. 3 years since everything changed. The Zephyrian Empire had been destroying human colonies one by one. They moved through space like a disease, burning everything humans had built. Their ships were huge and powerful. Their weapons could turn entire planets into glass. The aliens thought humans were weak and stupid. They thought Earth would fall easily. Morrison wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's Navy. His ship was called the USS Vengeance. It was not like the old ships that had tried to fight the Zephyrians before. This ship was different. This ship was invisible. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines. 20 crew members worked at their stations. They all knew what was coming. They had trained for this day in secret bases hidden in the asteroid belt. No one on Earth knew about the Shadow Fleet except the people who built it, and the people who would fly it. Lieutenant Commander Steve Blake sat at the weapons station. He was Morrison's second in command. Blake had short brown hair and steady hands. He had lost his family when the Zephyrians burned the colony on Kepler Prime. Like many people in the Shadow Fleet, he wanted revenge. A voice came through the speakers. Admiral Lisa Chen was speaking from Earth Command. Her voice was calm, but everyone could hear the steel underneath. All Shadow Fleet vessels, this is Control. Operation Dark Dawn is a go. Repeat, Dark Dawn is authorized. Morrison pressed a button on his chair. This is Vengeance, we copy, Control. Dark Dawn is go. Around the ship, other vessels began to move. The Shadow Fleet had 50 ships in total. Some were big like the Vengeance. Others were small and fast. All of them had the same special technology that made them invisible to alien sensors. Commander, Helen Torres had built the stealth systems. She was the chief engineer for the entire Shadow Fleet. Torres was a small woman with dark hair and bright eyes. She had worked day and night to make the cloaking devices work. The technology came from alien ship parts that humans had found after battles. But Torres had made it better. She had made it human. The stealth drives wrapped light around the ships, like a blanket. To alien sensors, the ships simply were not there. They could not be seen or detected in any way. It was like they had become ghosts. Blake checked his weapons. The Shadow Fleet had quantum torpedoes that could pass through alien shields. They had beam weapons that could cut through the strongest armor. Most important, they had computer systems that could think faster than any living brain. The computers could track hundreds of targets at once and plan attacks in seconds. Morrison looked at his crew. These men and women had volunteered for what might be a suicide mission. The Zephyrians had hundreds of ships. They had been fighting wars for thousands of years. But the aliens had never fought humans before. They did not know what humans could do when they were desperate. The tactical display showed the alien fleet gathering near Kepler 442. Intelligence reports said the Zephyrians were preparing for their final attack on Earth. They planned to destroy the human homeworld completely. They wanted to wipe out the entire human race. Torres spoke from the engine room. Captain, all stealth systems are working perfectly. The Zephyrians will not see us coming. Morrison nodded. Good work, Torres. All stations, prepare for combat. Approach. The Shadow Fleet moved through space like silent hunters. Their engines made no sound that alien sensors could detect. Their hulls absorbed all light and energy. They were invisible death, moving toward their prey. Blake studied the alien formation on his screen. Sir, I count 312 enemy vessels. They have battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and fighter carriers. This is the biggest Zephyrian fleet ever seen. Morrison felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Humanity's survival depended on the next few hours. If the Shadow Fleet failed, Earth would burn. Billions of people would die. The human race would become extinct. But Morrison believed in his ship and his crew. He believed in human courage and human cleverness. The Zephyrians thought they knew everything about war. They were about to learn that humans could be more dangerous than they ever imagined. The ship's computer spoke in a calm female voice. Approaching target system. Stealth systems at maximum efficiency. All weapons ready. Morrison sat down in his captain's chair. Around him, his crew prepared for battle. They had trained for this moment for months. They knew their jobs. They were ready to fight for their species. In space around the Vengeance, 49 other ships moved in perfect formation. Each ship had a crew of brave men and women who had chosen to risk everything for Earth. They were teachers and farmers and engineers who had become warriors. They were ordinary people who would do extraordinary things. The alien fleet grew larger on the viewing screen. The Zephyrian ships looked like living creatures. They pulsed with strange lights. Their hulls were smooth and organic. They had been grown rather than built. Each ship was a weapon of incredible power. Morrison opened a channel to his fleet. All shadow vessels, this is Morrison. In a few minutes we will engage the enemy. Remember your training. Remember why we fight. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will not go quietly into the darkness. The voices of 50 captains answered him. They were ready. The shadow fleet was ready. The stars watched as invisible ships moved toward their destiny. The aliens waited in their formation, confident in their power. They did not know that death was coming for them. They did not know that human ingenuity had found a way to turn their strength against them. Operation Dark Dawn had begun. The Zephyrian fleet floated in space like a city of death. Their ships glowed with purple and green lights that pulsed like heartbeats. Fleet Commander HFY stood in the command center of his flagship. His 4 arms moved over control surfaces, while his large black eyes studied the tactical display. HFY was proud of his fleet. 312 ships of war surrounded him. Each vessel carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. The bioorganic hulls could repair themselves during battle. The living computers could think and adapt faster than any machine. The alien commander's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Today would see the end of the human plague. The primitive species had spread too far from their home world. They had claimed planets that belonged to the Zephyrian Empire. Now they would pay the price for their arrogance. Captain Amy Johnson watched the alien fleet through her ship's sensors. The USS Phantom was the smallest vessel in the Shadow Fleet. It was built for speed and stealth rather than heavy combat. Johnson had volunteered to command the scout ship because she wanted to be the first to strike back at the aliens. Johnson was 35 years old with red hair and green eyes. She had grown up on Mars colony before the Zephyrians burned it. Her parents and younger brother had died in the attack. She still dreamed about the screams of the dying and the smell of burning air. Ensign Pete Williams sat at the sensor station. He was young and nervous but good at his job. Williams had trained on Earth's moon before joining the Shadow Fleet. His hands shook slightly as he read the alien energy signatures. "Ma'am," Williams whispered, "the Zephyrians are charging their planet-killer weapons. Those are the same weapons they used to destroy New Tokyo Colony." Johnson's jaw tightened. The intelligence reports had been correct. The aliens were not planning another small raid. They intended to glass Earth completely. Every human city would burn. Every human life would end. 3 light minutes away, Admiral Lisa Chen commanded the Shadow Fleet from her flagship. The USS Eclipse was hidden behind a small asteroid where alien sensors could not detect it. Chen had short gray hair and tired eyes. She had not slept well in weeks. Chen looked at her tactical display. 50 green dots represented the Shadow Fleet vessels. They were spread out in a wide formation around the alien fleet. Each ship was invisible and ready to strike. The Admiral had planned this battle for months. Every detail had been considered. Lieutenant Colonel Ray Martinez prepared his fighter squadrons in the Eclipse's hangar bay. The Wraith-class fighters were small and fast. Each one carried a personal cloaking device and enough firepower to damage a cruiser. Martinez was a pilot himself and would lead the first attack wave. Martinez had flown combat missions against pirates before the Zephyrians came. He was good at flying and even better at killing enemies. His pilots trusted him completely. They would follow him into hell if he asked them to. The fighter squadron leaders gathered around Martinez for final instructions. There were 12 squadrons with 8 fighters each, 96 pilots who would strike like invisible wasps. Their job was to confuse the enemy and target the alien sensor arrays. Chen's voice came over the fleet communication system. All shadow. Elements, this is Eclipse Command. The Zephyrians are preparing to jump to Earth. We will not let them reach our home. Begin Phase 1 operations immediately. Johnson smiled grimly as she heard the order. Phase 1 was her favorite part of the plan. The USS Phantom would appear next to an alien ship, fire everything it had, then disappear before the enemy could react. The goal was to make the Zephyrians afraid and confused. The Phantom's stealth drive shut off for exactly 3 seconds, long enough for the alien sensors to detect a human ship, long enough to fire 6 quantum torpedoes. Then the little ship vanished again like it had never been there. The torpedoes phased through the Zephyrian cruiser's shields and exploded inside the hull. The alien ship convulsed as internal explosions tore it apart. Green blood leaked from cracks in the bioorganic armor. Zekthai's head snapped up as alarms began to sound. One of his cruisers was dying and he did not know why. His sensors showed no enemy vessels anywhere in the system. The ship was simply destroying itself from the inside. "Report!" Zekthai commanded in his alien language. "Unknown, Fleet Commander," his tactical officer replied. "Sensors detect no hostile contacts. The cruiser appears to have suffered internal system failures." But even as the officer spoke, another ship began to die. This time it was a destroyer on the fleet's outer edge. Explosions rippled along its hull as invisible weapons found their targets. Captain Morrison brought the USS Vengeance alongside a Zephyrian battleship. The alien vessel was huge and covered with weapon turrets. Its living hull pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Morrison could see aliens moving around inside through transparent sections. "Target their command center," Morrison ordered. "Commander." Blake locked weapons onto the alien ship's brainstem. The Zephyrian vessels were grown rather than built. They had nervous systems like animals. If you could sever the right connections, the entire ship would become helpless. The Vengeance fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes. The weapons passed through the alien shields like they were not there. They detonated inside the ship's command section, cutting neural pathways and destroying the organic computers. The Zephyrian battleship went dark. Its weapons stopped firing. Its engines shut down. The ship drifted helplessly as its crew tried to restore manual control. All across the alien formation, similar attacks were happening. Human ships would appear for a few seconds, strike with devastating accuracy, then vanish again. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy they could not see or predict. Johnson's USS Phantom darted between the larger alien vessels like a deadly insect. Her ship's disruption beams targeted the nerve clusters that controlled Zephyrian technology. Entire sections of enemy ships would suddenly stop working as their biological systems failed. The Phantom's crew worked with smooth efficiency. Williams tracked multiple targets while the weapons officer fired at anything that looked important. The ship's engineer kept the stealth systems running at maximum power. Zekthai watched in growing horror as his fleet began to fall apart. Ships were exploding or going dark every few minutes. His sensors showed nothing but empty space where the attacks were coming from. It was like fighting ghosts. "All vessels, begin random movement patterns," Zekthai ordered. "Fire into empty space." The humans must be using some kind of cloaking technology. The alien ships began to move erratically and shoot at nothing. Some of their wild shots actually came close to hitting cloaked human vessels. But the Shadow Fleet had expected this reaction. They had trained for it. Chen watched the battle from her command center. The first phase was working perfectly. The alien fleet was in chaos. Their formation was breaking apart as ships tried to avoid invisible attackers. Fear was spreading through their ranks like a disease. Martinez launched his fighter squadrons into the confusion. The Wraith fighters were so small that even if the aliens detected them, they would be almost impossible to hit. The pilots flew through the alien formation like ghosts, targeting sensor arrays and communication systems. The battle had only begun, but already the tide was turning. The Zephyrians were learning what happened when you tried to destroy humanity. They were learning that humans could be more dangerous than any nightmare. Commander Zekthai's four hands trembled as another of his ships exploded in brilliant fire. The humans had been attacking for 2 hours and his fleet was falling apart. Ships that had survived 100 battles were being destroyed by an enemy he could not see. The alien commander stared at his tactical display with growing despair. Red symbols showed damaged or destroyed vessels. Green symbols represented ships that were still fighting. The green symbols were disappearing faster than his mind could process. "Status report," Zekthai demanded in his clicking language. His tactical officer's voice was filled with fear. "We have lost 103 vessels, Fleet Commander. The attacks are becoming more coordinated. The humans appear to be everywhere at once." Zekthai's mandibles ground together in frustration. His species had conquered dozens of worlds. They had destroyed civilizations that were millions of years old, but these primitive humans were fighting in ways that made no sense. Captain Morrison watched the alien flagship through his viewing screen. The USS Vengeance had been stalking the massive bioship for 30 minutes. The Zephyrian command vessel was twice the size of any human ship. Its hull pulsed with organic lights, and its weapons could destroy a city. Morrison sat in his captain's chair and studied the enemy. Blake had identified the ship's weak points. The alien vessel had a central nervous system just like a living creature. If they could damage the right nerve clusters, the entire ship would be paralyzed. "Bring us in close," Morrison ordered. "I want to put our torpedoes right into their brain." The Vengeance glided silently toward the alien flagship. The stealth systems kept the ship completely invisible. To the Zephyrians, empty space was moving toward them. They had no idea that death was approaching. Blake targeted the alien ship's primary command node. The biological computers that controlled the vessel were located in a protected section near the center of the hull. It would be a difficult shot, but Blake was the best weapons officer in the fleet. "Firing quantum torpedoes," Blake announced. 8 torpedoes launched from the Vengeance. They phased through the alien shields as if the energy barriers did not exist. The weapons detonated inside the flagship's command center, sending shockwaves through the ship's nervous system. The massive alien vessel convulsed like a wounded animal. Its lights flickered and went dark. The weapons stopped firing. The engines shut down. The ship began to drift helplessly through space. Zekthai felt the deck shake under his feet as explosions ripped through his ship. The lights went out and emergency systems activated. Red warning signals flashed as the ship's biological systems began to fail. "Damage report," Zekthai screamed. "Command systems offline," his officer replied. "Life support failing. We are dead. In space, Fleet Commander." Across the battlefield, Captain Johnson was leading the USS Phantom on a deadly hunt. Her small ship darted between the alien vessels like a wasp attacking a hive. The Phantom's disruption beams were designed to interfere with biological systems. Johnson's crew had perfected their tactics over months of training. They would appear next to an alien ship, fire their disruption beams at critical nerve centers, then vanish before return fire could reach them. It was like performing surgery with weapons. Ensign Williams monitored the alien communications. "Captain, they're trying to coordinate a defensive formation, but they can't find us on their sensors." Johnson smiled coldly. "Let them try. We'll just pick them off one by one." The Phantom's next target was a Zephyrian destroyer. The alien ship was firing blindly into space, hoping to hit something. Johnson brought her ship directly underneath the destroyer's hull, where its weapons could not reach. "Fire disruption beams at their propulsion system," Johnson ordered. The beams struck the destroyer's organic engines. The alien ship's nerve pathways overloaded and the engines shut down. Without power, the destroyer began to tumble end over and through space. Admiral Chen watched the battle from her command center aboard the USS Eclipse. Her tactical display showed the complete destruction of the alien fleet. What had started as humanity's last stand was becoming a masterpiece of military strategy. The Shadow Fleet was fighting as a perfect unit. Each ship knew exactly where the others were and what they were doing. The human commanders communicated constantly, sharing target information and coordinating attacks. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez led his fighter squadrons through the chaos of the battlefield. The Wraith fighters were invisible to alien sensors and almost impossible to hit. His pilots flew through the enemy formation like angels of death. "Gold Squadron, target the carriers," Martinez ordered over his radio. "Silver Squadron, take out their communication arrays." The fighters swept in like a swarm of invisible insects. Their weapons were smaller than those on the big ships, but they could strike with incredible precision. They targeted sensor arrays, communication systems, and anything else that kept the alien fleet organized. One of Martinez's pilots, Lieutenant Dan Cooper, flew his fighter directly into the hangar bay of an alien carrier. The Zephyrians could not see him coming. Cooper fired all his missiles into the stored alien fighters before vanishing back into space. The carrier's hangar bay exploded in a chain reaction that tore the ship in half. Dozens of alien fighters were destroyed before they could launch. Another Zephyrian vessel became an expanding cloud of debris. Commander Torres monitored the battle from the Eclipse's engineering section. Her stealth systems were working perfectly. Not a single human ship had been detected by alien sensors. The technology she had developed was giving humanity an impossible advantage. Torres felt a fierce pride as she watched her invisible fleet tear apart the enemy. The Zephyrians had thought humans were primitive and weak. They were learning that underestimating human ingenuity was a fatal mistake. Zekthai managed to restore partial power to his flagship. His ship was crippled, but still alive. He opened a communication channel to what remained of his fleet. The proud armada he had commanded was reduced to scattered survivors. All vessels, attempt to retreat to the jump point, Zekthai ordered. We cannot fight an enemy we cannot see. But the human ships had anticipated this. Captain Johnson's USS Phantom and a squadron of stealth destroyers were already positioned along the escape routes. Any alien ship that tried to run would find invisible hunters waiting for them. Morrison brought the Vengeance alongside another alien battleship. This one was trying to flee, but its damaged engines could not build enough speed. The human ship appeared next to it like a nightmare made real. Target their life support systems, Morrison commanded. The quantum torpedoes struck the alien ship's atmosphere processors. The biological systems that created breathable air began to fail. The alien crew would have minutes to abandon ship before they suffocated. Blake watched the alien battleship drift helplessly through space. Sir, we're receiving a surrender signal from that ship. Morrison considered for a moment. The aliens had shown no mercy to human colonies. They had burned entire worlds and killed billions of innocent people. But Morrison was still human. He still had compassion even for his enemies. Tell them to abandon ship, Morrison decided. We'll let them reach the escape pods. The battle was nearly over. The mighty Zephyrian fleet that had come to destroy Earth was scattered and broken. Most of their ships were debris. The survivors were fleeing in terror from an enemy they could not understand. Chen's voice came over the fleet communication system. All shadow vessels, excellent work. Begin Phase 3 operations. Make sure no alien ship leaves this system alive. The final phase had begun. The human ships moved through the battlefield like invisible reapers, finishing off damaged alien vessels and hunting down the survivors. It was systematic and thorough. The Zephyrian Empire had come to exterminate humanity. Instead, they had walked into a trap that would destroy them completely. The hunters had become the hunted. The strong had been defeated by the clever. The battle had turned into a complete disaster for the Zephyrian Empire. What began as humanity's extinction was becoming the greatest military defeat in alien history. Commander Zekthai watched his proud fleet burn as invisible enemies struck from every direction. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance and counted their victories. His ship alone had destroyed 17 alien vessels without taking a single hit. Around the battlefield, the other Shadow Fleet ships were writing similar stories of impossible success. The viewing screen showed another Zephyrian dreadnought erupting in brilliant flames. The massive ship had tried to fight back by firing randomly into space. But shooting blindly at invisible targets was useless. The human ships could see everything while remaining completely hidden. Blake checked his weapon systems. The quantum torpedoes were performing better than anyone had hoped. The alien shields that had seemed so powerful were worthless against weapons that could phase through solid matter. Every shot found its target. Sir, we have enough ammunition to destroy 50 more ships, Blake reported. Morrison nodded grimly. Then we keep fighting until every alien vessel is space dust. The USS Vengeance moved toward its next target. The stealth drive bent light around the ship's hull, making it invisible to every type of sensor the Zephyrians possessed. It was like hunting with the advantage of complete surprise every single time. Commander Zekthai felt his ship shudder as another explosion rocked the hull. His flagship was dying slowly, system by system. The human weapons had damaged the ship's biological nervous system so badly that most functions were failing. The alien commander opened a channel to the Zephyrian High Command. His message would take hours to reach the home worlds, but he had to warn them about what the humans had become. "High Command, this is Fleet Commander Zekthai," he transmitted. "The human species is not what we believe them to be. They have developed weapons and tactics that make them extremely dangerous. My entire fleet is being destroyed by ships we cannot see." Zekthai's message continued. "The humans fight like demons. They appear from nowhere, strike with perfect accuracy, then vanish again. Our sensors are useless against them. Our shields cannot stop their weapons. I recommend immediate peace negotiations before they bring this technology to our home worlds." Admiral Chen monitored the deteriorating alien formation from her command center. The tactical display showed Zephyrian ships attempting to retreat, but finding escape routes blocked by invisible hunters. The Shadow Fleet had planned for every possibility. Chen felt satisfaction as she watched the alien fleet fall apart. For 3 years, humanity had endured systematic destruction of their colonies. Billions of people had died while Earth's regular navy could do nothing to stop the attacks. Today was payback for every human life that had been lost. Captain Johnson brought the USS Phantom alongside an alien cruiser that was trying to limp away from the battle. The Zephyrian ship was badly damaged, but still dangerous. Its bioorganic hull was bleeding green fluid into space from dozens of wounds. "Target their engines," Johnson ordered. The Phantom's disruption beam struck the alien ship's propulsion system. The organic engines seized up and died as their nerve pathways were overloaded. The cruiser went dead in space, drifting helplessly among the debris of its destroyed companions. Johnson felt no mercy for the alien crew. These were the same beings who had murdered her family on Mars colony. They had shown no compassion when they burned human settlements. They deserved none in return. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez led his fighter squadrons in a coordinated attack on the surviving alien carriers. The Wraith fighters moved through the enemy formation like invisible ghosts, their pilots targeting anything that looked important. Martinez's own fighter slipped through the shields of a Zephyrian carrier and entered the ship's hangar bay. Alien fighters were lined up in neat rows preparing to launch. Martinez fired all his missiles at once, turning the hangar into an inferno. The carrier's bioorganic hull convulsed as internal explosions tore it apart. The ship broke in half, spilling alien fighters and crew members into the vacuum of space. Another enemy vessel had been removed from the battle. "This is Gold Leader," Martinez reported over the radio. "Carrier Alpha is destroyed, moving to target Beta." His pilots followed him through the battlefield like a pack of invisible wolves. They struck at everything that moved, targeting engines, weapons, life support systems. The alien ships had no defense against enemies they could not see. Commander Torres watched the battle from her engineering station aboard the USS Eclipse. Her stealth technology was working beyond her wildest dreams. The systems she had developed in secret were giving humanity a decisive advantage over a superior enemy. Torres felt proud of her achievement, but also sad that such technology was necessary. Humans should have been exploring the galaxy peacefully, making friends with alien races. Instead, they were fighting for their very survival against species that wanted to exterminate them. The last group of Zephyrian ships was making a desperate attempt to escape. 20 survivors from the original fleet of over 300 were heading for the system's edge at maximum speed. Their damaged hulls left trails of green blood and mechanical debris. But Captain Johnson's USS Phantom was waiting for them. Her ship appeared directly in front of the fleeing aliens like a nightmare materializing from empty space. The Phantom's weapons were already charged and ready to fire. "This is for Mars colony," Johnson whispered. The quantum torpedoes struck the lead alien ship and tore it apart. The other survivors scattered in panic, trying to avoid an enemy they could not see. But more human ships were decloaked all around them, cutting off every escape route. Morrison brought the Vengeance into the final battle. His ship's weapons spoke with deadly accuracy, destroying one alien vessel after another. The Zephyrians tried to surrender, but the human crews remembered too many burned colonies to show mercy. Blake targeted the last enemy battleship. The alien vessel was trying to ram the invisible human ship, hoping to take at least one enemy down with them. But the Vengeance was too fast and too well armed for such desperate tactics. "Firing all weapons," Blake announced. Every torpedo and beam weapon on the Vengeance fired at once. The alien battleship simply vanished in a ball of white-hot plasma. The explosion was so bright that it could be seen from other star systems. Admiral Chen watched as the final Zephyrian vessel died in fire and radiation. The battlefield was now filled with nothing but wreckage and the cold silence of space. The alien fleet that had come to destroy humanity had been completely eliminated. Chen opened a channel to all Shadow Fleet vessels. "Attention all ships. This is Admiral Chen. The enemy fleet has been destroyed. All alien vessels are confirmed destroyed. Mission accomplished." Cheers echoed through the communication system as 50 ships full of human warriors celebrated their impossible victory. They had faced overwhelming odds and superior technology, but human courage and cleverness had won the day. Torres smiled as she listened to the celebration. Her stealth systems had made the victory possible, but it was the crews who had made it happen. Ordinary men and women had become heroes when their species needed them most. Martinez's fighters performed a victory formation flight through the debris field. Their cloaked ships were visible only as subtle distortions against the stars, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. They had written their names in the wreckage of their enemies. The Shadow Fleet floated among the ruins of the Zephyrian Armada. 50 invisible ships surrounded by the debris of over 300 alien vessels. It was the most complete victory in the history of space warfare. Morrison looked out at the destruction and felt both pride and sorrow. Pride that humanity had proven itself capable of defending its home. Sorrow that such violence had been necessary. The galaxy was a dangerous place for species that wanted to live in peace. But now the aliens would know that humanity was not helpless. The message would spread to every corner of the galaxy. Earth had teeth and was not afraid to use them. In the aftermath of the battle, Admiral Lisa Chen stood in the communications center of the USS Eclipse. The room was filled with complex equipment that could send messages across the entire galaxy. What she was about to broadcast would change the balance of power among all spacefaring species forever. Chen looked out at the debris field that had once been the pride of the Zephyrian Empire. Twisted metal and organic matter drifted through space like a graveyard of alien ambitions. 300 ships had come to destroy humanity. Now they were nothing but space junk. Captain Morrison joined her in the communication center. His uniform was still clean despite commanding a warship through the greatest battle in human history. The USS Vengeance had not received a single hit from enemy weapons. Neither had any other ship in the Shadow Fleet. "Are you ready for this, Admiral?" Morrison asked. Chen nodded firmly. "The galaxy needs to know what happened here today. Every alien government needs to understand that humanity is no longer helpless." Captain Johnson arrived from the USS Phantom. Her small ship had destroyed more enemy vessels than some battleships. Johnson's red hair was tied back and her green eyes burned with the fire of satisfied revenge. She had avenged her family and her destroyed home world. The communication equipment activated with a soft hum. Chen's message would be broadcast on all known alien frequencies. Every spacefaring civilization would receive humanity's declaration within hours. The words would echo across 1,000 worlds. "To all civilizations who may be listening," Chen began, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's newfound strength. "This is Admiral Lisa Chen of the Human Shadow Fleet. 3 hours ago, the Zephyrian Empire attempted to exterminate our species with a fleet of over 300 warships. The message was being recorded along with tactical data from the battle. Every alien government would see exactly how the mighty Zephyrian fleet had been destroyed. They would see human ships appearing from nowhere, striking with impossible precision then vanishing like ghosts. The Zephyrian fleet has been completely destroyed, Chen continued. Every single vessel has been eliminated with 0 human casualties. Let this serve as notice to any who would threaten Earth or her colonies. Commander Torres listened to the broadcast from her engineering station. She felt pride in what her technology had accomplished. The stealth systems had worked perfectly throughout the entire battle. The aliens had never even seen the ships that were killing them. Torres thought about the months of work that had made this victory possible. She had taken alien technology and made it better. She had given humanity the tools they needed to survive in a hostile galaxy. Her invisible ships had saved the human race. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez was in the Eclipse's hangar bay, talking with his fighter pilots. The Wraith Squadron had performed brilliantly during the battle. Their small ships had confused the enemy and destroyed vital targets throughout the alien formation. The pilots were young men and women who had volunteered for the most dangerous missions. They had flown invisible fighters through enemy formations, striking at targets no bigger than a house. Their courage had helped win the day for humanity. Chen's message continued to broadcast across the galaxy. Humanity will no longer be the victim of alien aggression. We have evolved beyond your expectations. We have developed technologies you cannot comprehend. We have forged a will that cannot be broken. The tactical recordings showed alien ships exploding without warning. They showed the complete destruction of a fleet that should have been unbeatable. Any government that saw these images would understand that humans had become extremely dangerous. Blake monitored the message transmission from his station on the Vengeance. The quantum communication systems were sending the broadcast to relay stations throughout known space. Within 12 hours, every major alien civilization would know about humanity's victory. Blake smiled as he thought about alien leaders watching the recordings. They would see their most powerful military force destroyed by ships they could not detect. They would realize that humans could strike anywhere at any time without warning. We do not seek conquest, Chen's message explained. We do not want to rule over other species. But we will no longer tolerate aggression against human settlements. Any attack on our colonies will result in immediate and total retaliation. The message was designed to prevent future wars rather than start them. Humanity did not want to become galactic conquerors. They simply wanted to live in peace, but they were prepared to defend themselves against any threat. Captain Johnson thought about the families who had died in the Zephyrian attacks. Millions of humans had been murdered when the aliens burned the outer colonies. Today's victory could not bring them back, but it ensured that such massacres would never happen again. Johnson looked out at the wreckage of the alien fleet. Each piece of twisted metal represented justice for the innocent people who had died. The Zephyrians had learned too late that humans could be more dangerous than they appeared. Chen reached the climax of her message. The Shadow Fleet watches from the darkness between the stars. We are everywhere and nowhere. We can strike without warning from the void itself. We are the consequence of pushing humanity too far. The words sent a chill through space. Every alien listener would understand the threat. Humanity had become the monster that lived in the dark places between stars. They were invisible death that could appear anywhere at any time. Torres began shutting down the stealth systems throughout the fleet. For a few moments, all 50 human ships became visible to normal sensors. The aliens could see exactly how many vessels had destroyed their mighty armada. Then the ships vanished again, leaving only empty space. The demonstration was psychological warfare at its finest. The aliens now knew that 50 human ships had destroyed over 300 of their vessels. They also knew that those same ships could disappear completely whenever they chose. Morrison asked Chen about their next move. The Shadow Fleet had achieved total victory, but the war might not be over. Other alien governments might try to attack humanity before the new technology could spread. Chen's eyes held the steel that had made her a successful admiral. We disappear again. Let the galaxy wonder where we are and what we're planning. Fear of the unknown is often more powerful than the unknown itself. The Shadow Fleet began to scatter throughout the galaxy. Some ships would return to Earth to report their victory. Others would patrol the outer colonies, watching for new threats. A few would venture into alien space, gathering intelligence and showing the flag. Martinez's fighters prepared to return to their carriers. The pilots had proven that humans could adapt their technology to any situation. Small fighters had been just as effective as large battleships when properly equipped with stealth systems. The age of human victimization was ending. For years, aliens had seen humanity as weak prey that could be hunted without consequences. Now they knew that humans were predators who struck from the shadows. Chen finished her broadcast with words that would be remembered for generations. This message marks a new era for humanity. We are no longer hiding behind our home star, hoping that stronger species will leave us alone. We are taking our place among the galactic powers. The communication equipment shut down with a soft click. The message was sent and could not be recalled. Every alien government would soon know that humanity had become a force to be respected and feared. As the Shadow Fleet engaged their stealth systems and vanished from normal space, they left behind only wreckage and a message that would echo across the stars. Humanity had found its teeth and the galaxy would never be the same. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as invisible ships full of determined humans prepared to ensure that Earth would never again stand alone against the darkness. The age of the Shadow Fleet had begun and the universe would remember this day forever.